Which character in Sunday in the Park with George can't appreciate pointillism? How does a seemingly throwaway line in the show evoke both Seurat's style and theatrical lighting? Why are names like Jules, Blair Daniels, and even Spot the dog so telling? And what kind of metaphor is bit by bit anyway? Shalom, I'm David Benkof, the Broadway Maven. When Sunday in the Park with George opened in 1984, it wasn't like anything Broadway had ever seen. It was cerebral, visual, and emotionally restrained. But over the decades, it's become one of Stephen Sondheim's most revered works. More than just a musical about painting or process, it's a meditation on vision, attention, love, and what it means to make something that lasts. In this video, I'm counting down 10 pointed Sondheim and Lapine moments, tiny brushstrokes that, like Seurat's dots, form something bigger when you step back. Let's start with a single word. The second line in the first song in Act 2 of Sunday in the Park with George,
"It's hot out here,"
is sung by Yvonne.
"It's hot and it's monotonous."
But listen closely. She delivers the word with theatrical flair. Monotonous. Sure, the overemphasis creates an internal rhyme with hot, but at the same time it undercuts the word's meaning. She can't say monotonous in a monotonous way. It's a perfect symbol of the show. George's characters may look frozen in monochromatic tones, but they refuse to be unidimensional. Here's one that requires a little knowledge of optics. The boatman, who wears an eyepatch, sings, "One eye, no illusion that you get with two." It sounds like a metaphor for clarity, but it's also literally true. Pointillism, the painting style Seurat pioneered, relies on binocular vision to blend color. The viewer merges hundreds of tiny dots into a unified whole. With only one eye, the boatman wouldn't be able to see it properly, and that's the point. He mocks George, resents the painting, shouts to be left alone, yet he's part of the masterpiece. He can't see it, but he's in it. Sunday is a musical about pointillism, so naturally it's filled with dots and spots. The character Dot's name underscores the way she's treated as a mark on the canvas. The nurse calls George's mother someone's dotty mother. The boatman's dog, right foot, and George himself casually refers to that phrase sounds like painterly language, and it is, but it's also a theatrical term. In stage lighting, a cool blue spot is a focused beam, tinted blue, used to highlight without warmth. Sunday is a musical that, like pointillism itself, builds whole lives out of carefully placed dots and deliberately lit spots. Sunday's two Georges are hemmed in by the snooty voices of patrons and the harping voices of critics. So it's no accident that Sondheim and Lapine gave us a voice of resistance in each act, each with a name that encapsulates what George resents most about them.
Out very early today. Hello, Jules.
There's Jules, the arts patron, whose name sounds like jewels. Flashy, decorative, and ultimately superficial.
Blair's the man of the hour.
Oh, Blair.
And in Act 2, there's Blair Daniels, the critic, whose name evokes Blair. Loud, opinionated, and attention-grabbing.
They're just becoming more and more about less and less.
These aren't just characters, they're regulators in George's world, shaping what art is allowed through. So when second act George's chromaloom breaks down and he says,
"Give us a moment and we'll be able to bypass the regulator and be back in business,"
it lands harder. Sure, he's talking about circuitry, but in a show about invention and independence, it's also a wish to bypass Jules, Blair, and everyone else who tells him what art should be. Jules dazzles, Blair shouts. When it comes to criticism, George faces it in stereo. Did you notice this? George repeatedly tells Dot,
"Stand still, please. Just stand still. Perhaps if you would remain still."
a common artist's request that also reveals the limits of his love. He wants her to remain fixed in place while he moves forward intellectually, creatively, obsessively. Stay still becomes a stand-in for every way George fails to meet her halfway. He doesn't ask her to engage, to grow, or to speak, just to stay. In that moment, we see the whole tragedy of their relationship. He captures her body, but not her life. In Color and Light, George sings
Yellow comma,
as he paints, and a careful look at Sarza Sunday afternoon on the island of La Grande Jatte shows why. His brushstrokes aren't simple points, they're shaped like tiny commas. Commas represent just a pause, an interruption, a breath, but not closure. The entire first act is full of them, relationships unresolved, feelings unsaid, life in mid-thought. But in Act 2, though the tools have changed, technology, memory, installation, the longing for artistic purpose remains. And unlike his ancestor, he doesn't stay trapped in the pause. He paints a period with his life. That final punctuation smooths the way for George to, yes, move on. This is one of my favorites. The line, "You and me, pal," appears thrice in Sunday.
you and me, pal. You and me, pal. You and me, pal.
The line echoes Merrily We Roll Along, where a slightly younger Sondheim had written, "Me and you, pal, me and you." But in Merrily, it was about collaboration, three friends chasing a dream. In Sunday, it's about lonely artistic vision. The reused phrase draws a subtle line between two musicals and two moments in Sondheim's life. The collapse of a partnership with Harold Prince, and the triumphant rebound of a vital artist. Now, let's anchor Sunday in the historically specific moment in which it was written. In Act 2, George sings,
Bit by bit, putting it together.
He's referring to his process, art made painstakingly, step by step. But Sunday premiered in 1983 during a brief but resonant moment in tech history. Words like bit and byte were entering everyday language as people learned how their home computers worked. George's Chromalume isn't painted, it's engineered. It runs on circuitry, projection, and programmed light. So of course it's built bit by bit, just like everything cutting edge in 1983. You can forgive yourself for missing this next one unless you're a grammar nerd like me. If you look closely at the painting A Sunday Afternoon in the Island of La Grande Jatte, you'll see more than a dozen hats. So why does George sing
Finish the hat, finish the hat.
That definite article should matter. It's even in the name of Sondheim's first book of lyrics. Maybe it refers not only to George, but to Sondheim himself. It means selection, discipline, focus. And that's Sondheim's entire career. Never repeating himself, never riffing on past hits, never phoning it in. Each musical is the hat, distinct, deliberate, and irreplaceable. Follies doesn't sound like Into the Woods. Assassins doesn't echo Company. Only with one resonant and artistically specific hat at a time could Sondheim ever really say, look, I made a hat. Finally, one line delivered by each act's George anchors the show.
Connect, George. Connect. Connect, George. Connect.
George is pleading with himself to bridge the emotional gap between him and the people who love him. His mother, Dot, but also the artistic gap between the points he's placing on the canvas. But here's the twist. A pointillist painter can't connect the dots by adding more. He has to step back, see the whole. The tragedy is George knows how to build a masterpiece, but to truly connect, he has to stop painting and start looking. Sunday in the Park with George isn't just about making art, it's about making meaning. The show asks what it means to create, to connect, to leave something behind. These small pointed moments, textual, visual, and musical, are like Seurat's dots, precise, isolated, and somehow more powerful when seen together. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Shalom, I'm David Benkof, the Broadway Maven. The Broadway Maven is a vibrant educational community. Every month, members may attend 5 to 15 classes and other expert-led Broadway experiences, all for just $18. There's a membership link in the description. And here's a video I think you'll like.